What's going on? It's Sean. Um, I've had a lot of questions recently about heart rate based training and HIIT training, and a few related questions. And so I kind of put together this really quick slideshow to help. Now I am not a professional at slideshows, so it's not exactly exhilarating. But let's jump in. All right, so the basic physiology of kind of what we're talking about is the heart and the lungs work together and they positively affect one another. As we work out, CO2 builds up, which your lungs need to get rid of, and so there's pressure builds, lungs get rid of CO2, you then breathe in, get more O2 in the blood, and it circulates. So the more your heart rate increases, the more your lungs will increase. The more your breathing rate increases, the faster your heart rate will increase. They work together and they're totally in function. Sort of what I just talked about is there's three systems. You have the muscles, your heart, and your lungs. And in this, they all work back and forth and positively affect each other, like I was just talking about. So let's take an exercise. You start to squat. As you squat, you're going to build CO2 in the body, which is going to create this unnecessary pressure and this idea of lactate. As you increase this, you need more oxygen. And so as the blood starts to realize there's less oxygen in the body, it's going to start pumping a little bit faster to bring oxygen to the system. As it realizes there's less oxygen, it makes your lungs increase in order to breathe fuller and more rapidly. And then as that happens, there's more oxygen coming in, which then fuels the blood, which then makes your heart rate increase, and it goes all three back and forth. It's like a cool little triangle here. There's kidneys and all this other stuff in there too, and liver, but we're not going to worry about any of that. All we're going to worry about is CO2, which is the byproduct of exercise, and oxygen, which is the fuel necessary for exercise. So all three systems need each other. Now, to increase your heart rate, and the way that this happens is there's five main mechanisms that I use to sort of conceptualize this and understand this. So there's increased intensity, you can increase your speed and your force production, you increase your reps, you increase your time, and you decrease your rest time. And these are all ways to positively increase your heart rate. Not that you always want to have a positive increase, but if your goal and the training of that day, if it's something I've given you or something you want to do, this is sort of what you need to manipulate in order to increase your heart rate. So the first one is increase your intensity. So the intensity on this idea is the concept of increasing your load or the effort. Basically, it's like how hard or how heavy is it. So you can increase the weight of the implement, whether it's dumbbell, barbell, sandbag, whatever it is. You can wear a weight vest, which is going to increase your body weight. So if you're running or jogging or skiing or cycling, you're now a little bit heavier. You can increase the incline, which is pretty straightforward. If you're running, run uphill, stairs, stuff like that, which is going to be now more downward force into the floor, which is going to increase sort of the intensity. And the last one is increase the floor friction, what I want to call it, which is like running on the beach sand versus like running on pavement. Grass, snow, all these different things make running and movement more difficult, which is related to intensity. Basically, the effort put forward to complete the movement. As this gets increased, your heart rate will increase because it now is working harder. Again, we're going back to the muscles. The muscles work harder, which means more CO2 output, which means they need more O2 input, which means the heart and the lungs are going to increase their capacity and their function. Increasing speed and increasing the force. So intensity is essentially the idea of increasing the time of the rep. In this case, this isn't intensity. Force is essentially the idea of increasing the time of the rep. in this case, we're going to use acceleration. So for those who know, force equals mass times acceleration. For this example, we're not going to change the mass. We're only going to change acceleration. The previous example of increasing intensity, it is the idea of increasing mass. But let's say that we're going to keep mass the same and we're going to increase acceleration. Acceleration is like how quickly are you trying to perform the movement, whether you're jumping or whatever. As acceleration increases, force overall will increase. And this is going to increase your heart rate because moving faster means obviously more work, especially if the mass is the same. Now, if you take the last concept and this concept and put them together, mass increases and acceleration increases, and that means force is going to multiply by a large amount. So increasing your speed and increasing your force will increase your heart rate. So this is going to be moving faster, exploding harder, and jumping with everything you've got. So something like this would be like a movement, basically like a power clean or a snatch or a box jump or a broad jump. Or if you're running, try to run faster. There's overspeed training. There's all these different things that you can do to increase the acceleration and your force output, which will increase your heart rate. You probably hear my cat tearing apart his box. He loves to do it, and he's very loud. So increasing reps is next. This is a pretty straightforward idea. Obviously, increase the total reps. Again, it's not always ideal for certain movements or different exercises like jumping or sprinting. Doing more per set isn't always ideal. But that's not really a concept we need to figure out right now. Like jumping is fine, but you don't need to be jumping like 50 times in a row. That's not really ideal, especially for performance. If you're trying to have a more quality jump, jumping that many more times isn't beneficial. And so the idea with increasing reps is as we become more efficient, it takes longer to increase our heart rate with the same stimuli. So this is a pretty common one when you first start. Let's take a bodyweight squat. If you've never done a bodyweight squat and you do one, you do 5 or 10, you feel like you're getting kind of tired. Your body's not used to this yet, and over time it will adapt, and the stimuli will create, you'll get more efficient for the same stimuli. So that same bodyweight squat will go a lot easier. As efficiency gets lower, heart rate gets lower. You don't need to change your heart rate as much because you're doing a pretty good job. So what you should do is increase your reps. And as you increase your reps, you'll elicit that burn and that need for oxygen, which will increase, again, your heart rate and your lungs. Man, dude. All right. Sorry. So increasing your reps will increase your heart rate as well. We're going to use that concept kind of along with the next one, is increasing time. And this is the idea of like working time. And instead of performing a movement for 15 seconds, increase it to 20 or 30. If you're running, if you get used to running for 10 minutes and you realize that you're really not that gassed anymore, run for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and you'll get that heart rate back up because it's going to have to adapt to the new stimuli. And that's going to be a really good way to increase your heart rate, burn more calories, and so on. Just like you'd add reps, increase the working time. So if you're getting used to, say you want to run a mile, you feel like it's getting easier, run 2 miles, run 1.5 miles, or you can manipulate time and say now you want to run that same mile in less time, and now that is going to be increased sort of intensity, which is that going back, it would be increasing acceleration in that second slide. And so that force production, the speed of it is going to increase, which will positively affect heart rate. Man, this guy, he's quiet all day until I got to film this thing. Last one is going to be decreasing your rest. So unlike the others, you don't want to increase rest. In order to positively affect your heart rate, to make sure it's increasing, you want to decrease your rest time. If your rest time doesn't allow for proper recovery, then your heart rate will stay at that increased state. And that's going to be a pretty good way to go about that. And so what's a positive thing to do is limit that rest time, keep that workload high, and you'll see that your heart rate increases. So now we're going to tie it all together. So a lot of performance workouts utilize work-rest ratios and are written like this, work to rest. So a lot of it, very common, 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, very, very common. It's normally quantified as time because it doesn't make sense to really do it as reps because you can't take 4 reps off. So you'd see 1-to-1 be a 1 minute on, 1 minute off, pretty straightforward, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, pretty straightforward. Then you get to 2-to-1 where it's 2 on, 1 off, so it's 60 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And then again, 60 seconds on, 20 seconds off. And this is sort of manipulating that work to rest ratio. American football has one of the, I guess, lowest work rest ratios, and that they only really work on average about 6 seconds at a time, and then they rest for about 40. Now some plays last longer than 6 seconds and some are much shorter, but on average it's about 6 seconds and 40 seconds between plays. And that's kind of like a weird, the rest time is way higher, kind of like down here, where it's 4 seconds off or 4 seconds on and 40 seconds off. So that's kind of wild. MMA and Jiu-Jitsu and I guess MMA really is one of the shortest work rest ratios in that their rest isn't a true rest because they're still defending and moving around. So work rest ratios in MMA fighting in particular is really difficult and really tricky to work with. And so if you're trying to, again, manipulate some of these different aspects, work with your work rest ratios, try to manipulate these and see which one is that sweet spot for how you feel and the heart rate you're kind of striving for. Again, tying it together, you can use these different mechanisms, combine them together, and positively affect our heart rate. So let's take a medicine ball slam, pretty common. I use these a lot. I love them. I think it's a really good way to affect your heart rate and to get some total body work in. I guess the one thing I didn't add to, I guess, the prior slides would be like the more muscles you use, the greater you need more oxygen because now you have more organs needing that fuel. So I really enjoy, or I guess I enjoy it too, but programming full body, like hard workouts. Because if I can get your whole body working and I can get your every muscle firing and very explosive, your heart rate is going to increase pretty quickly and you're going to see some pretty good benefits. So you take a medicine ball slam. A medicine ball slam is a really good way to get your whole body working. Now, to modify your heart rate in this, again, increase that working time, decrease the rest time, increase how hard you're trying to throw it. I guess the next one would be like the wall ball would be a better side of that, where if you're trying to throw it like to an 8-foot mark, try to now throw it 10 feet, which means you're now exerting more force into the ball, which is going to create a higher heart rate because the force equals mass by acceleration, increase force. With increased force, you have increased need for oxygen. So that'd be more of the wall ball, so throw it higher. Slam the ball harder. Increase the weight of the ball, increase the height that you're trying to throw it, decrease the rest time between sets. You can increase the reps of how many you're trying to do. And if you're trying to go by time, you can increase the time you're throwing the ball. So now you're going to modify that work-rest ratio by using the ball slam. A spin bike's the same idea. Get on the bike, pedal as hard as you can. To increase it in the intensity, you can change that little knob or increase the dial to make you pedal harder as if you're like riding uphill or through sand or something. And that's going to increase the need. If you're trying to spin as hard as you can with those, then you're going to see some positive effect also with your heart rate and total force output as well. Same thing with dumbbells and barbells. You can still get a really good cardiovascular workout using dumbbells and barbells. People typically don't think that, like, when I program HIIT training, especially with that pyramid, that the pyramid isn't really HIIT training because there's no like fast movement stuff. But if you constantly keep yourself working and there is no rest involved, and every time you use that weight, it is fairly heavy to you, then this will increase your heart rate and it will positively affect your musculature. You will become more efficient. Um, but with more efficiency, you just increase the weight and do it again. You can try to get through it as fast as you can. You can try to move as hard as you can. So for some of these, you have like the upright row, the squats, deadlifts, kettlebell swings, whatever it is. The more force you put into the implement, the higher your heart rate's going to go. If you just sort of passively get through these and like you pick a weight that is like good enough, or you get a time that's good enough, then you might not see these changes. And that's where I see a lot of people sort of stumble and not exactly like the effect they're getting. And so I would say make it challenging, make it fast, decrease that rest time, don't let your body stop, and you'll see that your heart rate will start to increase like crazy. You're going to be out of breath, and it's going to be real difficult. There are many different ways to impact the heart rate, and so I kind of want to state that you know, don't think that only HIIT training has to be running or jogging or cycling. There's a lot of things that you can do to positively impact your heart rate. The desire to solely impact heart rate might not lead to being stronger, more muscular, but it'll have a positive effect on total muscular endurance, exercise capacity, and VO2 max. So I'll make a video about like how we gain muscle and get like bigger. And this style of training isn't always the best way to get more muscular. The mechanisms to build muscle aren't going to always be prevalent in HIIT style training and in heart rate based training. It's just not quite there. And so you won't always get that. Now in the pyramid workout I've built, those will elicit some of the effects of hypertrophy and muscle gain. So you will see some positive net benefit from muscle gain as well as heart rate endurance training. But I wouldn't do a pyramid workout in order to add size. Same thing as getting stronger. If you're trying to improve your total strength, this style of workout isn't really going to do that. It's pretty well understood that strength style workouts, to really increase your max strength, you need way more rest, but your force output is going to be extremely high. And so although it's similar in the idea of force output, it is nowhere near like lifting your absolute 1 RM deadlift, your 1 rep max. It's not like that at all. If you're doing a deadlift 5 a minute, every minute on the minute for however long, that's very different. It will increase VO2 max. This stuff will increase VO2 max. So will steady state cardio, going to run for 45, 50 minutes. That will increase VO2 max as well. But your ability to consume oxygen and utilize it is what VO2 max is sort of doing. So keep up this style of workout and you will see a positive effect to your VO2 max. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, email me, text me, Slack me, whatever you got. I'll help answer whatever I got. This is a very sort of basic idea of improving heart rate based style training and why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I program what I program, and also what you should be trying or striving to do in your own workouts. So when I give you like a HIIT style training day, this is what I'm trying to elicit. And so I want you to modify these things that you can get yourself to have these adaptations as well. Thanks. I hope you got to the end of this and let me know what you think.